Hello, everyone. Welcome to Talking Leadership. This is Eric Perez, your podcast host, welcoming you back to what is our ongoing discussions on this thing called leadership. Today's guest is the Chief Executive Officer of Soltaro, which is an Australian-based company that designs, engineers, and manufactures battery storage solutions for both commercial and home applications. Can I welcome to the podcast Tynan? How are you, mate?
Good, Eric.
Mate, look, I appreciate your time. I know you're busy like we all are. Let me get the podcast started by asking you the following, mate. Why get into a leadership role? What was it that pushed you in that direction in terms of your career, mate?
What led me there was I liked creating my own destiny. I liked being able to control, what I did and what I earned and when I worked and so forth. I've always been like that. Even through university, I was able to, create income out of sources that are not normal to most. And when I was working as an engineer and going to work from, 9 to 5 every day and looking at a computer screen, I just wasn't enjoying it. I was able to get an opportunity to work in a new space in renewables, running a division within a family business, and that excited me. I was able to then work from 8 till 6 and really enjoy doing the work over that time, rather than, like I said, even though I was doing more hours, it wasn't an issue, it wasn't a burden. And I grew into that. I was very ambitious and wanted to continue growing and that, hence to grow to the levels that I wanted to. That meant having to lead people. And we got to a point where we were leading, across all of Australia, over 100 people. So it was something that really drove me. You had some low times where, it was really tough, but effectively the highs really outweighed the lows. So that's how I got into it. And I haven't looked back really, and I don't think I ever will.
Thank you for sharing that, mate. It's what you brought up a topic area that I haven't touched on a lot, and I just want to talk about this if we can for a second, is that what are the triggers that push people to take on leadership roles, be they voluntary or, in your case, working for someone else? And I can understand that angst of sitting in front of sitting in a job in front of a computer in a technical role that's not doing anything for you, your grey matter, and it's grating on you over time. And I'm glad in your situation that it prompted you to do something different and extend yourself beyond a technical role. Some people, and again, it's not everyone's cup of tea, because waterminute job can also mean maybe it's not the industry for you to be in. And those triggers are very different from person to person. Now, did it take you a long time before the bug creeped up and you thought, I can't do this forever in your technical job? Or did you have an inkling when you were at uni but you stuck with it? Like when did it finally hit you? Were you in the world of work when this happened?
I mean, I was only early days in my career as an engineer. It was only a couple of years out of university, which I spent 5 years getting my degrees for. So it was a big choice of mine to do that. I was lucky enough that my employer at the time gave me a year off to sort of help with my family business. And then I just never looked back. I made the decision pretty early on that, it didn't matter what I did for university, this was where I wanted to go. So I think if I hadn't had that opportunity, it would have taken me a bit longer to probably find that. So I was kind of lucky in that sense, but effectively the opportunity came and I took it and never looked back.
Let me ask you this, mate. The role of a leader is sometimes called a lonely road. To what extent do you agree or disagree with that statement? As a leader, I in my 9 to 5 job, I unfortunately don't have a staff. I'm an office of one, so I don't really think about this stuff, because I tend to think of myself as just a solo operator working in the environment that I work in. But at times it'd be nice to have someone to bounce ideas off, and that's where I use my colleague network and sort of reach out and ask questions that way. So let me backtrack a bit. So do you agree that it's a lonely pathway? And if it is, how do you deal with it?
It definitely is. It's something that I guess in the early days I was lucky that I had my uncle who'd been running businesses for over 30 years, so he was my mentor initially, and to this day I still bounce ideas off him. Obviously the business that we run now is totally different, and the landscape is totally different to how it was, even 10 years ago when I started. But effectively having that person to bounce ideas off and get clarification on through their experiences, or even not through their experiences, it is something that you need. It is something that at times you sit there and in your office, and when there's things, that decisions you have to make, and frustrations that you have to get through, it is quite lonely. And it's not even in the office. It could be at home, or you could be sleeping in the middle of the night, start thinking of something else, and why is this person doing that, or and that's, I think that's the biggest thing. It's as a leader, it's understanding that all the people underneath you are different, and they're wired differently. So it's always trying to work out how to get them to do what you need them to do, so that it makes your job easier. And sometimes the frustration gets better of yourself, and having that person to bounce ideas off and just clear your chest a little bit. And my wife does help with that as well. So yeah, you do need that, but at times it is quite lonely.
I have to ask this because you previewed it a little bit. Do you find it hard to turn off the manager sort of CEO mindset? Can you go home and just turn it off in your brain?
It's impossible. It is impossible. Like, I mean, it's one of those things where you're in that position because, or you've chosen this career path is because you've got all these ideas, and it's not always frustrations that get the better of yourself. It's always like, okay, what if we do this, or what if we do this, and maybe this idea will work, or maybe this idea will work, and it's all hours of the day, and it's very hard to really switch off. And that's probably one of my weaknesses, that is I can't switch off. So yeah, it's one of those things that, and some of the best thinking you do, and that's one of the reasons why I like getting in early, is because at 6 o'clock in the morning, there's no one there, and you can really sort of focus when you probably have to spend the time, especially early in the morning when you are really focused and you're not tired, where you can really think the best. So, but yeah, it's very hard to switch off, almost impossible.
That's brilliant. You kind of answered my next follow-up question, because I thought I'd go down this line to see what I might find down this rabbit hole. And it looks like you make time to think by starting work early. And I've lots of the leaders that I've spoken to have made it very clear that juggling some time to do the operational stuff versus the strategic stuff versus the blue sky thinking time is difficult to do once the day kicks off. So, I mean, your solution to it, if you're an early bird like I am, is you use those morning hours to do your bigger picture thinking, and you're getting some technical stuff out of the way, and then leaving that and focusing the rest of your day to do other things. So that makes perfect sense. The other thing to clarify with you, because you mentioned the people that you talk to, part of your network. So the topic of mentoring has come up almost in every podcast, or is alluded to in most podcasts. So do you in your travel, sorry, I'll re-ask the question. Have you in your travels chased mentors, or has it happened just as a function of the fact that you were getting into leadership? And were those mentors a formal thing or an informal thing?
I do have a mentor now, not outside of my uncle. I do have like a coach who pretty much keeps me honest with what I'm doing. We set goals, and it's really on the lines of, one, you can bounce ideas off, but two, just making sure that the goals that we set, I'm actually working towards those goals, and I don't get distracted away from them. How I got involved in that, as we were growing Soltaro, and we're now multinational. We've got offices in Europe and just opened up in South Africa. It became a challenge for myself to try and pioneer that. My uncle's mentoring was based on what he knew here, running businesses in Australia. So we had a few issues overseas that, through inexperience, I could have probably avoided. An opportunity come to join a group of like-minded leaders. I joined that, and from there, you just start networking with people who think the same. There was opportunities there to discuss with people through networks and stuff, and that's how I did find this coach that I'm working with. But it's one of those things where the more and more you grow in a leadership role, the more and more you need to be associated with like-minded leaders, because they've gone through the same growing pains as yourself, and they can assist you in areas that you don't know about, and try and avoid the mistakes that like that I have made previously through organically growing the business. They can help with avoiding that, and it's worked perfectly. And I do recommend anyone who gets into a position of leadership that they do have someone that they can bounce ideas off and to effectively coach you, because they've got years and years and years of experience that they can effectively help you with. It's like playing football. You wouldn't go and play football by yourself. You've got to have a coach who's got the experience to be able to show you what to do, how to kick a footy, how to mark a footy. There's no point in trying to learn how to do it. You just get told how to do it and just execute it.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I appreciate the response, because it mirrors some of the other responses I've had with this, particularly around those in the entrepreneurial space that have built businesses, and they've said exactly like you get to a stage where you need to be talking to people in your industry that maybe not similar thinkers, but up for having the discussion around the industry that you're working in, and that helps to maybe clarify your own thinking, because there's nothing like sitting in a room and listening to others have a debate or talk about an issue that you're interested in to get your thinking a little bit more focused, and there's always a benefit to that. I'm interested in the formality of that relationship. So in your circumstance, you talked about getting a coach. Now, a lot of the people I've spoken to have said it's been informal, and yeah, it's good to hear that there are some people that will go down that formal pathway, because those coaches exist, and I can't and I won't speak to how good they are, because I've never been in a leadership position where I've been coached by someone and had that relationship set up. So it's good to hear that people use different methods to get to the same end, I guess, and that's running successful businesses. Another question for you, Tynan. Measuring success. What's your yardstick for success in your business, mate?
I mean, everything's about turnover and so forth, but I think for myself is, especially with Soltaro, when you see, people talking about a brand you developed just through an idea that you had, it really shows success from my point. Like I said, we've got people inquiring about our products all around the world, and you sit there and when you really do look back and go, wow, an idea that I had, 5 years ago is now all around the world. People are saying this name that never existed, and that was one of the reasons why I used the word Soltaro, because I wanted to create my own destiny around it. And yeah, so that's how I measure success. In the end, it's about how much people want to work with your product, and I'm seeing that throughout all the channels that we have now. So from a measurable point of view, we've got KPIs on what we need to deliver and so forth. But effectively, what I measure success for is, like I said, the fact that people are using your brand in their everyday life is a good achievement for all of us.
Yeah, and it's everyone mentions the bottom line, which is having a business that is achieving its financial targets. Obviously, that's important because you need to make money, but there's those other things that you talked about, and particularly the discussion around brand recognition and that being linked to, I guess, quality. So when you say people are talking about Soltaro, they're using that as a term of this is a quality business and they sell quality products. That's what you mean, yes?
Yeah, and just the fact that there's so many different people all around the world that are using that brand. So,
and then the recognition that comes from that. Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Okay, look, just in terms of your travels as a leader and what you've seen in the different industries that you've worked in, coming through, you said Ericsson, and then into your own business now. What do you think are the key leader capabilities in your estimation? So if I had to say to you, give me a list of 3, 4, 5, whatever the number is of capabilities that you think are critical for a leader to be effective.
And the biggest one is you need to be robust. You need to understand that every individual is different. You can't lead everyone the same way. One thing that was a challenge in the early days was the fact that, I thought everyone thought the same as myself and so forth. And, one thing that sticks in my mind from day one, which my uncle said, is he goes, Tynan, not everyone thinks the same as you. If they did, then you wouldn't be in the position that you're in. So, understanding that certain people have different goals in life. For me, I love working. I love the success of working, but a large majority of the people that work for me, it's about a means to an end. They want to come in to work so that they can enjoy their life. So it's a different mindset. If you can understand how all people work and get the best out of them by managing them differently, then you're going to get the best out of your organisation. So that's probably the biggest thing, is being robust around your people. It's probably understanding, like I said, what they want out of it, seeing what their goals are and trying to assess their goals, so then you can motivate them. If you can motivate them to get the best out of the time they're at work working for you, then you're going to be more successful as well. So if they're successful, then you're successful. So they're probably the biggest things I find as a leader, trying to get that. And yeah, probably just living within your means as well. Don't try and do too much. Slowly grow. You may have big ideas, but trying to go too big too quick will probably hinder you in the end and probably destroy almost everything that you worked for. So organically go through it. I know you want to get there fast. I'm the same. I want it all done yesterday, but take your time, do it properly, because in the end, and I can tell you from the start, with any customer that we've had, if we've had any issues with them from day one, then what could have been a huge relationship or partnership has ended quickly. Whereas working with them from the start, slowly growing with them to make them as big as they can be, will work a lot better than just going, okay, yeah, let's go 100 mile an hour and let's get out there. So I think they're the biggest things that I can say as a leader, and what's worked for me. And look, there's always things, and you second guess yourself about what you're doing, but in the end, you make decisions based on what you think is best, and you just got to understand the people working for you are the ones that are going to make you successful.
Mate, that's there's a lot to talk about in that response, and I've got two that really do stand out, and these ones are new for me, and I thank you. And this is one of the key reasons I do these podcasts, because there's always a nugget of gold from every person I'm talking to. The two things that came out there that I'm very interested in is understanding the motivations why people go to work. I go to work because I get a buzz out of what I do. I get to challenge government officials. It makes my day to be able to keep them honest if I can in the work that I do. That motivates me. But I have friends, lifelong friends, that have told me the only reason they really go to work is to make their paycheck so they can enjoy their time with their family, away with friends. Work is a means to an end. Sometimes, and this is the better leaders understand that, and they don't take it personal, because I think some people, and I would fall in this category, I think 20 years ago, I wanted everyone to like me and be there for the same reasons I was. That's never, ever going to happen. It's never going to happen. It's not real life. But I think when you get a few grey hairs like I have, you get to understand that the reality of the workplace is different. For different people, even those that are motivated to be there will have slightly differing reasons to be there. That's an observation that is very profound. So thank you for sharing that. And then the second one that I'm really interested in, and this is one about how adaptable and how strategic your thinking is as a leader, is around the development of partnerships and looking for opportunities amongst the environment in which you're working, whether that's with a client or with a rival business, and that being able to see that and make the best of it, and know the signs that it's there for a potential to be had. Because I'm sure, and I won't quiz you on where this went wrong in the olden days, but I'm sure when you first started, you're kicking yourself thinking, damn, there was something more there I could have gone with, and you didn't do it. And now, years on, and you've been in this role for almost 3 years in this business, that I'm sure what you've done now is a little different to what it looked like when it comes to that adaptability, and that strategic thinking is a little different than when you first started, obviously. Is that fair call?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we used to jump into things and get excited about partnerships and so forth without really managing it properly from the start. And my biggest thing with all of my leaders that I work with within my organisation is, I'm not interested about that first sale. I'm interested if that first sale goes well, right, and we support them through that first sale, then it's that second and third and fourth and fifth sale that's most important. So getting that second sale for me is the most important sale, because that means that they're happy with the first one, and they were happy with the first system that they bought or the first system that they installed. So it's one of those things where we make sure that the first one goes well, because once we know we get the second, then the third, fourth, fifth and sixth is going to come through. So that's the biggest thing that I've learned. We've had opportunities with some large clients that, showed huge potential from day one, and, whatever the reason was, things didn't pan out from the start, and then it ended, and then it was almost impossible to try and get that going again. So that's probably the biggest thing, that in any business, it's not about the first sale, it's about that second sale.
That ability to understand your market, and I'm not sure what the capability is, but or what the proper term for it is, but being able to, maybe understanding the market in which you work in, and that is going to be essential, particularly when you're selling a good versus delivering a service, because I guess in some ways, and I will draw on the experience of my wife. She has been in the retail game for about 30 years, and it's interesting that the dynamic of people who sell things, when you meet someone who is in sales, they could be the most normal, innocuous person who's walking around you don't know. When you see them selling, it's almost like you see a different person. They're attuned to what the customer wants, how you give them the best service you can give them, and how you make them a repeat customer. And I saw that a few times in coming up with myself, seeing my wife in her workplace without just watching what she did. And it was like there was a different person there, and I think your mind switches to, how do I get not just the sale, but how do I get them coming back? And that's probably a really good thing in your industry, because you want them thinking the place that I need to go to when I'm thinking about this kind of solar technology is Soltaro, not a competitor. And I guess that's necessarily a good thing. So, mate, I appreciate that. Look, final question for you, and this one is one I'm not going to take it out of the podcast, because I think it's worth asking this question, and it is the nature versus nurture. So do you think leaders are born or made?
Oh, they're definitely born. They're definitely born. Like I said, the way I'm wired is totally different to a lot of people that aren't leaders. And I think with anything, like, if you're not motivated to do something, then you're not going to be successful, right? And that's why I think if you can't be made to be a leader, you have to be born to be a leader, because if you're born to be a leader, you'll be motivated to be successful to do it. I just can't see how being forced into something, you may be able to be successful to a certain extent, but if you're not enjoying what you're doing and you're not motivated to what you're doing, you're going to struggle. You struggle to get the success that you can get. So I definitely think you're born to be a leader.
There you go. And on that note, a very positive note, Tynan, can I thank you for your time? And for those listening, I've been speaking to Tynan Coles, who is the CEO of Soltaro. Look, I appreciate your time, mate. Thank you.
No worries. Thanks, Eric.
For those listening, this has been Talking Leadership. I'll catch you all on the next podcast.